this Christ the King Sunday, Luke gives us a stark portrait of kingship. In a single sketch, here is the imperial kingship of Caesar. Here is the tyranny of Rome with its rule of domination and fear and cruelty and contempt. In first century Palestine, crucifixion was a common Roman method of execution. It was designed to humiliate the condemned, intimidate the people, and project imperial power. And for the Jews in Jerusalem, a more terrifying, disgraceful death could hardly be imagined. Now, thankfully for us, Luke's gospel doesn't go into all of the gory details of crucifixion. And I think that it's on purpose because, firstly, Luke's first readers would have had no trouble imagining what it was like. They were all too familiar with this Roman weapon of terror. But more importantly, I think Luke wants us to focus on what Jesus is doing with his last moments on earth. What does Jesus do when he's forsaken by his friends and mocked by his enemies? What does he do as a sarcastic sign hangs over his head? This is the King of the Jews. Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. Now, what kind of king would do that? Wouldn't a king seek retribution? Retribution instead of offering forgiveness? And just who is included in that them? Who gets included in this sweeping show of compassion and mercy? Does that them include Pilate? Pilate, who knows the right thing to do but is swayed by the clamor of the people, who sends an innocent man to die just to get himself out of a jam. Does that them include the crucifiers, the ones who actually carry out the mechanics of crucifixion, the ones who can hide behind the excuse that they were just following orders? Does that them include the chief priests and the other temple authorities, the ones who led the effort for Jesus' crucifixion, the ones who saw Jesus as a threat to their status quo? Does that them include those who are carried along by the mob mentality, shouting things that they would not normally shout on their own, but who, following the crowd, now have their own hands stained by Jesus' death? Does that them include the throngs of people who turned on Jesus so quickly after he just entered town into their shouts of Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna? Does that them include that criminal hanging there on the cross next to Jesus, the one who uses the last of his own precious breath just to mock and deride Jesus? The answer must be yes, 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 yes. They're all included in that them. And if they can receive God's grace and forgiveness, there has to be some hope for us, right? Swiss theologian Karl Barth once wrote that the church is born in this story. He points out that it was just a meager congregation, not of the righteous, but of criminals, gathered around Jesus, listening for and receiving words of forgiveness and radiant good news. Barth reminds us that the church is always surrounded and pervaded by Caesar's reign, the tyrant's reign. But we're nevertheless called to be a glimpse. We're called to be a sacrament, an experience, and a proclamation of Christ's dawning reign of love. Christ's topsy-turvy kingdom is a perfect reversal of Caesar's. It's a kingdom not of domination, but of servanthood, kingdom not of mockery, but of kindness, a kingdom not of cruelty, but of mercy, a kingdom not of fear, but of courage, a kingdom not of retribution, but of forgiveness. And it's for Christ's kingdom that the church waits and prays. It's for Christ's kingdom that the church hopes and prepares as the season of Advent